The Portland Trail Blazers in free agency has made some under-the-radar moves that may push them to be a top team in the Western Conference. The Blazers going into the 2019-2020 NBA season were just coming off a Western Conference Finals appearance, but they battled injuries. They had one of the worst defenses in the league, and they were fighting to make the 8th seed on the strength of Damian Lillard. The main areas the Blazers have covered in this free agency so far is defense and depth. The Blazers had the 3rd best offensive rating in the league last year, but they had one of the worst defensive ratings, ranking at 28th in the league. Needless to say, the Blazers needed defensive pieces and more pieces that can step up when needed. They missed out so much when Al-Farouq Aminu and Mo Harkless left the team. Granted, they weren't the best offensive options, those two guys were key in helping to anchor the Blazers' defense. Now they got defense and a guy who is a better offensive and defensive player than both of those guys. Robert Covington, the best role player in the league, great defensive player, good off-ball guy, and a three-point shooter. He was a main reason on how the Rockets won games in that small ball lineup. He can guard multiple positions, and he is a perfect fit on this Blazers team, helps space the floor for Dame and CJ, and can be a versatile defender. They also brought in Derrick Jones Jr., who isn't the best offensive player or shooter, but his length and athleticism allows him to be a versatile defender, realistically a solid role defender who can help the second unit. Plus, they have an emerging talent in Gary Trent Jr., who has shown that he is an underrated defensive talent. I don't even need to discuss the offense for the Blazers. The Blazers offense will be just fine. Nurkic, Dame, CJ also get an added offense from Covington, and also the Blazers brought back Carmelo Anthony on a 1-year deal as the two sides stay loyal to each other. Melo had a bounce back season as he was searching for some time to come back to an NBA roster. I don't know what Melo's true role will be on this team, not sure if he still starts, but he has shown that he is still that offensive guy who can get buckets in any situation. There were talks with Melo going to the Knicks, but I think it's best Melo stays a Blazer here and competes in the Western Conference. The Blazers also traded away Mario Hezonja, and they brought back Enes Kanter, an offensive backup big who was also a big piece in the Blazers' 2019 playoff run when he played for them. He gets trashed for his defense, but he is a nice backup center who can fight for rebounds and give you some solid offense. The Blazers also brought back Rodney Hood, 2 years, $10 million, and this signing screamed loyalty on the Blazers' side. Hood had an Achilles injury that occurred last December, and he may have not received a lot of offers because of this. He is still rehabbing, and getting Hood, who is a good player off the bench for $5 million a year, is good for the Blazers. He was a big part in being that scoring threat off the bench, and in that Nuggets playoff series in 2019, he really showcased his worth to this team. So the Blazers remained loyal and signed him to a 2-year deal, and they are hoping he is able to return to how he was before. He may come back and needs time getting adjusted, but Hood gave the Blazers good production when he was healthy. They also recently signed a young Harry Giles, who is a Sacramento Kings favorite, and the guy is young, 22 years old. He got only 14 minutes a game, and I expect him to not get big time minutes, but be a guy who comes in here and there and gives the team production. The Blazers may run with a lineup of Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, Robert Covington, Carmelo Anthony, or Zach Collins at the power forward spot, probably Collins at the 4, and then Yusuf Nurkic at the center spot. Now they have depth at the bench with Carmelo Anthony, Anthony Simons, Gary Trent, Rodney Hood, Enes Kanter, Nasir Little, Derrick Jones Jr., Harry Giles, and this is a really solid bench here. You have a good mixture of offense and defense. The Blazers really was able to get what they need in free agency, defensive pieces and much more depth on their roster to contend in the West. And those are the pieces you need to stay competitive with a guy like Dame and CJ on the team. They should look to add a backup point guard in the coming days, but we will see how that plays out. I expect them to bounce back this season and challenge the West since they are fully healthy and a new revamped roster here, ready to compete, and they will be in the running to be a top 4 seed in the Western Conference.